Well, hello, Freedomizers. Welcome to Zone 13, the best afternoon news show on the web. Today is Thursday, June 18th, 2015, which is my son's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Jub. It's 3 p.m. on the East Coast. It's noon Pacific. We're broadcasting live from the studios of FreedomizerRadio.com. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my co-host, Scott Ferrarello, is with me, and we appreciate you tuning in. Our chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and right here at FreedomizerRadio.com, are open for you. Several of our colleagues, including Lynn, AstroTurf, and famous Anna, are in the chat rooms, putting links, documents, and other important information in there so you have them for your own records. And thank you, ladies, for that nice courtesy. We appreciate you. Remember, they're also journalists, analysts, researchers, and they're the best in the business. Today we have a ton of news and updates to get to. But first I have to do a short disclaimer, and that's just to let anybody who may be interested know that the things that are said on this show are solely my responsibility and not that of our wonderful hosts or sponsors. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts, guests, chat commentators, phone callers of Zone 13 do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of FreedomizerRadio.com, their sponsors, or our many valued advertisers, whether it be past, present, or future broadcast. All right, let me open up Scott's microphone here. We'll give him a proper hello, and then we'll get on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Scott Ferrarello. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Joanne. How you doing?
I don't know. I'm a little upset today. Chips are hitting the fan all over the place, and we're getting stiffed and screwed in every direction.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a show for you today where we're going to lay out some stuff about Jade Helm, about this immense computer system database that the government is working on. Most of our regular listeners will recognize the names Teledesic, OCI, Iridium, things like that. We're going to get into that. But overnight, there was an alleged church shooting that we should talk about first. I say alleged because I'm not completely convinced that this is real. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. First of all, it's way, way too convenient. You got a white kid who was busted for asking crazy questions at a mall. He was in possession of Suboxone. Suboxone is a drug that is used to get people off of opiates like heroin, oxycodones, pills, things like that. So then the story goes on that his father had purchased a gun for him. Why would you know your 21-year-old kid with a drug problem, who their father says was a loner, is weird? Why would you buy this kid a gun? So first of all, that's illegal. That's called straw purchasing. If you buy a gun, you have to buy it yourself. You have to pass the background check. You have to give up the fingerprints and all of whatever the requirements are. Nobody just buys you a gun and hands it to you, especially a handgun. So now, you also know that we have these high magazine bans. It's alleged that the kid reloaded 5 times. There isn't one person in that church who, when the kid stopped firing and reloaded 5 different times, couldn't jump that skinny little junkie. I ain't buying it. Now, this church itself is a very politically active church. As a matter of fact, somebody who was there is a state senator. His name is Clementa Pinckney, Pinckehney. He's not only a friend of Hillary's, but a big donor to Hillary. He, like I said, allegedly was killed, but he had met with Hillary at a fundraiser in Charleston earlier yesterday. The church is actually, now Gina sent me a bunch of this. She said the church is very politically active in a lot of the racially charged activities of late, having supported or sent delegates to Baltimore, being involved in the Trayvon Martin stuff in Florida, and also supporting the demonstrations in St. Louis. And immediately before the prayer meeting, there had been a gathering to discuss strategy involving racial protest matters. So this just isn't some regular church. This is some activist church. None of these pieces are fitting together. Then you look at the kid's Facebook page. Okay, there's one picture on his page. How many 21-year-old kids have one picture on their page? When I first looked at his page, he had 89 friends. Now he's down to 72. You can't get on his Facebook now, but I've held it open all day. I never closed out of it, so I was able to maintain it. There's another guy on his page who is allegedly a friend of his. His name is Terrell, and he's putting all kinds of information out. Oh, yeah, he did it, and, you know, shouldn't have done that, all kinds of stuff. There's pictures of the kid, and so they're friends. I'm not believing this. I can't, it just fits too neatly in a nutshell.
What about the surveillance photos? You know, the guy in the surveillance photo is brown skin, dark black hair,
and a fake nose.
And this kid got sandy blonde hair and pasty white.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're right. The surveillance photos do show a darker-haired person. And also, that nose
and
on that
skin.
Surveillance video, the kid's nose looks like it's fake. It looks like one of those ones that come with the eyeglasses for Halloween.
Yeah, but the fake nose is lighter than his skin in the surveillance photos. I mean, does he got makeup all over his whole body, his hands, his neck, his face?
No.
And then buys a black wig to match his, Mo from the Three Stooges haircut?
Yeah, that's a real neat cut, too. I noticed the cut on the kid in the surveillance picture. He's got a definite wedge cut in the back with the Moretti and curly hairdo mop top. That hairdo itself is so 80s. So I doubt that, just nothing about this is fitting except race guilt and gun control.
Right.
Dear Leader come out, and he did the race thing, and he tried to tell us that this doesn't happen in other civilized countries. Well, maybe he forgets the 85 students who were killed in Norway, or the Charlie Hebdo, or the murders in Israel and, other places, the crimes all over the place, in the UK and everywhere. So he's full of it. Now, this fits...
We know that.
Yeah, this fits the gun control. He told us that he was pivoting to gun control. He told us that if it's the last thing he does before he leaves, he's taking away our guns. Michelle said it, and Eric Holder said it.
Right.
How quickly? Now, you know that this is, like I said, this is a radical church, so they all know about it. But Hillary was offering condolences to Pinckney last night. You got Loretta Lynch come out there fast. We got hate crimes charged. We got Obama coming out there and talking. How come he didn't talk about what happened in Waco? How come he didn't talk about what happened in McKinney? But boy, he wasn't even awake. The man looked like he was stoned out of his sneakers too. Maybe he's sharing the kids some boxing. But Obama come out. Looks like we just dragged him out of bed. He was talking like this. He had his little fake accent going on. He said Charleston instead of Charleston. So he was putting on his either Southern or black accent for his little speech. And then he hopped on a plane, and he's off now to Los Angeles for a couple of DNC fundraisers. So it wasn't that important.
Well, and shots were just fired into a St. Matthew Church on Pendleton Street in Memphis, Tennessee. So, this
St.
is
Matthew
all...
sounds like a Catholic church.
This is all going to, fuel their gun control, executive dictatorship action. And, they got plenty of UN... They got plenty of trains, with gun racks on them now that's been found, along with UN trucks everywhere and CIA trucks everywhere.
They had 50 murders in Baltimore and like 70 in Chicago last weekend alone. But he didn't come running out talking about those.
No, and liberals are coming out saying, you know what? Let's just take the guns away from the white people.
Yeah, I see that too.
Don't you love how fascist they are? Let's just treat a whole segment of the population completely different. Less of the people we like.
Yeah, well, they want their gun control, but guns are a right. Every single time there's a shooting, they come out and blame the people who didn't do it. Don't fall into that. I mean, you didn't do it, and you're not a racist. Your gun didn't do it. It was a disturbed individual, if it happened at all, and it was his gun, not yours. Like I said, you're not a racist, and you were nowhere near the scene, so don't get blamed for it. Don't adopt this guilt. That's part of the tactic. They want to use that tactic to take your guns and your free speech away, by the way. And if you let them, you got nobody to blame but yourself. All right? If one more person in that church had a gun, they could have killed the perp and maybe saved a few lives. You notice how this all happens in gun-free zones. You notice it never happens at a gun range, because everybody there would blast you.
Yeah. Well, they don't care. You see what they have. I mean, it's legal for them to feed propaganda, and what they do is they roll out propaganda and the story that they created. Okay, they react to it the way they want to react to it, how they plan to react to it, which is not even wait till the bodies to get cold before they come out and start to take away guns, like Bloomberg did, like he did today. And then when the truth comes out in a week, they just ignore the truth like it never did come out, and then anybody who's talking about the truth is a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Well, I'm not buying one word of this. I'm usually pretty grounded, and I never use false flag. Well, my dears, today I'm going to break stride on that, because this is as false as it gets. How many 21-year-old kids only have one picture on their page? He never wrote a post, never even said hello to his friends.
I know, but unfortunately nobody's awake enough to even care, and the media isn't going to report the facts anyway. They're state-run media. Mm-hmm. See, this is the danger when you have a society and a government and a country where the media is in bed with the politicians and vice versa, is because you never get any truth. You get whatever they tell them to report, they report, and the people are just left holding the bag. And what are they going to do?
Yeah.
They can resist it and they can fight it when it comes to their house individually, but that's it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the South Carolina Youth Challenge was also mentioned on this kid's page as something that he attended. It says it's South Carolina's best program for at-risk teens. Funny, we've heard that before, haven't we? Yeah, we have. We did a whole thing about Job Corps on this show, and how they're recruiting the kids and how they're indoctrinating the kids, how the Muslims have infiltrated these programs. I don't believe this kid is a Muslim, but you never even know. But here you go. You got one of those youth programs, South Carolina Youth Challenge Academy, that this kid attended. And then you have the McChrystal there, General McChrystal. In the middle of all of this, he decides that he's going to start coming out and talking about mandatory service for our youth. They make it sound nice, like we're going to join Youth Corps and Job Corps
the brown
and AmeriCorps.
It's the brown shirts.
I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. But, he says,
the letter.
Yeah. No, it sounds good, Everybody should have responsibility, and everybody has, an idea that these kids should be
let's force some slave labor on them. Let's force some slave labor on our children so they can rat their parents out. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, well, notice he offers three options. It's the military, the Youth Corps, or forced national service. He's not talking about voluntary. He's talking about mandatory. We don't have a draft, so they can't call it a draft. But they're going to call it voluntary. And they want to rebuild ownership of the country by forcing citizens to serve an oligarchy they hate. So they can't get them to, nobody even trusts this government. So how do they think these kids are going to all line up all of a sudden and sign up to a government they don't trust?
Like paying your income tax, right?
Right, it's voluntary, all right.
It's voluntary, and if you don't, you go to prison. But you're going to volunteer, right? Because you don't want to go to prison.
Yeah, well,
they give you an offer you can't refuse, basically.
Okay. Absolutely. And this also fits in this agenda. lost youth, at risk. Here he is. He's a loner. He doesn't have any friends. He had 89 friends. He's down to 72 now. People are bailing out on him. But, that's also part of the tactic. They want your kids. They want to take your guns away from you. They don't want free speech in any way. They have a whole list of things you can't say. So, I'm just not buying this. It just fits too convenient in this slot. And if it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. And Scott's right. Next week all the facts will come out and everybody will say, well, okay, the first reports were fake and, okay, maybe there is something to that or maybe it doesn't fit. I'm telling you right now, this does not fit. You can believe it if you want or you cannot believe it if you want. But the truth will come out, and when it does, you remember you heard it here. I don't believe a word of this. I think it's part of an agenda, and I'm sure that if not anything more, the kid's a crisis actor. They were advertising last year for crisis actors in South Carolina, Charleston to be exact. So, after some training and after some things.
You just wait a week, and all the truth will be out, of course, It won't be. It'll never reach the mainstream state-run media, but we'll talk about it if we're still here.
No, you got the media all over it. They're chasing down this kid, and they are going with the whole narrative. And guns are bad, and racism is bad. Racism is bad, and that fit just too nicely. He goes in, and he leaves 3 people alive to tell the story. I think his actions told the story. It just does not fit. And then reloaded 5 times. There wasn't one man who could jump a skinny little junkie while he was reloading.
Yeah.
In a black church.
It's BS just like everything is that we're experiencing.
Right.
Like this thick
one skinny little
this...
white boy in a black church, and they didn't jump him when he was shooting at people and reloading.
Well, yeah,
that
he wasn't a defenseless old lady in a wheelchair. If he was a defenseless old lady.
Yeah, well, here's his congregation. They're talking about the protests, and they're talking about St. Louis and Baltimore, and they're talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to involve themselves in it. And it's a black church, and they got one skinny little white junkie boy in there, and they didn't jump him. He was sat there for an hour, and they didn't jump him. He pulls out a gun, they didn't jump him. He not only pulls out the gun, he shoots all his bullets, and then he has to take the time to reload the gun. And nobody jumped him. Sorry, folks, I'm not buying it. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm not buying this one.
I don't buy any of them. Okay?
Yep.
I don't buy any of them. 40 years ago, I believe maybe 1 out of 15, 1 out of 20 stories were setups. Now it's 20 out of 20.
Yeah.
It's all just propaganda, and you always know it because 12 seconds after it happens, the usual suspects come out pushing the agenda, and you know what the reason was for the crisis to begin with.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, there's a discrepancy on Google. Now, if you post an article anywhere on the web, Google picks it up. You can go back into your article and you can edit your article. You can't change the post date on it. 2 days ago, the Huffington Post put out an article about Dylan Roof, well, that's the kid's name, and how he was captured in this shooting. Well, the shooting allegedly happened last night, not 2 days ago. But the Huffington Post put an article out 2 days ago. It was captured on that. And then Gateway Pundit found another one that was posted also 2 days ago about Dylan Roof getting busted and the shooting in the Charleston church and everything. But it didn't happen until last night. So they jumped the gun. They put out their press release, and then they had to call it back. You can't take it off of Google. So they had to edit it. If you click on the article, it'll show you today's date. But if you go look at the Google catch and when you put that article out there, it'll tell you that was 2 days ago it was posted.
Well, the first time I did, it said 2 days. I just tried it about 30 minutes ago, and it said 4 hours.
Right. But you had told me about it longer than 4 hours ago.
So they changed it.
It was about 6 hours ago when we were discussing the date change, and now it's even 2 hours later than we had talked about it.
Yep.
So I ain't buying that either. There's just too many discrepancies in this story for it to be legit. They did it before. They put out an article, and they were busted at it. Remember? And now they're doing it again.
They did it in Sandy Hook. They've done it almost during every one of these, especially during these gun control fiascos.
Right.
And I don't know why they keep messing up on those, but they do. But it doesn't matter because, Fox News or anybody, nobody's gonna report on it. There's no investigative journalists anymore, Joanne. They're all Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah, all we got is us.
It's a nice distraction from this fast-track dictatorship he just got.
Oh, yes. We're going to get to that. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you what you think about all of this, but I promise you, I'm putting the link into the chat rooms on this 2-day-ago article from the Huffington Post, just so you know that I'm not messing with you. This is absolutely what we found, what we saw. So, what else can you say about it? There it is.
Oh, just, get ready because they're coming. They're coming. Let's move on.
They're coming for the guns, and we all know they're coming for the guns. So if you got to get up, man. You got to get up. You got to fight this. You got to keep your guns, all right? What do you think is going to happen to you when they take your gun? Everything's going to be rosy? They're going to push you around a hell of a lot worse than you're being pushed around.
They'll probably just kill you first and take them. So
never in history did disarming citizens go well for the citizens.
And it's worked in every country. We're the last one. I mean, it worked in Australia, worked in Canada, it worked in the UK. They're just, cookie cuttering the same thing that worked in all those countries.
Yeah, well,
and nobody did anything there either.
Hitler made the Jews register their guns. Then they came and took the guns. Then they came and took the Jews. Pol Pot disarmed the Chinese. And then he came for them. He killed off, 3 million of them? Do not give up your guns. Do not give up your rights. Do not give up your Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to fight. You can't just lay down and take this anymore. You're being screwed out of your rights. They are literally pulling a psychological operation on you. Oh, guns are bad, and check yourself too. How many of you out there are racist?
They know that.
You know better.
It's just all
you know better.
Thing.
You don't need me to tell you. It's really bad.
Anybody calls me that, and I laugh in their face because I know they've just lost the argument. That's all they got.
Yeah.
You
racist.
lose the argument, you attack the messenger. You attack the credibility of the messenger. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well,
I learned
we're
this
all
when I was
products
like
of the
20.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Racism isn't allowed. It isn't cool. It isn't smart. It isn't funny. And you all know that. I don't know any people that would dare even tell a racist joke these days. So, check yourself. If you're racist, fix it. If you're not a racist, don't adopt this guilt. It's not yours.
Saying a joke that goes against someone's nationality isn't racist either. It's a joke. Can you imagine Don Rickles in this day and age? They'd hang him before he got done with his set.
True.
It's comedy.
I
mean, even liberal Jerry Seinfeld said, "I'm not going to even do colleges anymore. Everybody's too PC. You can't even tell a joke nowadays. You're a racist." Yeah, well, you and your friends made it that way, Jerry.
That's
Hope
a good
you're
point.
happy.
That's a good point.
Think about Don
I remember
Rickles.
back in the day, you could tell an Irish joke, an Italian joke, a black joke, a Chinese joke.
Don
if we were all the
Rickles was
same.
the king, all right? He would say black jokes and then he'd attack Jews too because he was Jewish, just to show that, hey, he makes fun of his own people too. But you didn't have to worry about it back then because they weren't pushing some agenda that they needed that tactic yet. They were saving it for our time.
Yeah, well, everybody has an ethnic background. You don't get to choose that, except for Chickie there, Rachel.
Yeah,
but,
you can.
No, that's
like
that's
said,
a bunch of hooey too.
I'm identifying as Hispanic now, so I can get lots of free goodies, and I can get a job and new job and everything.
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm on a trip with no luggage. We got white women who are claiming to be black. We got men claiming to be women. We got a guy claiming to be president who doesn't even know how he got there and shouldn't be there. Guys, look in the mirror. If you're male or female, if you're white or black, it wasn't something you got to choose. You can live as something else all you want. But reality kicks in.
Now there's memes saying that black woman or that white woman that identifies as being a black woman was the hero of the guy in the church shooting. So who knows what's real anymore?
Yeah. I'm not buying that about this guy Pinkney.
Everything's
I think he's
photoshopped.
Retiring and going. I think that guy's.
You have a president of the United States where his whole life is photoshopped. I mean, can you just imagine any other president before him, say George Bush or somebody, who his mother, they had pictures of his mother taking nudie porn shots. I mean, you can't make this up. And nobody reports on it.
Even Bill Clinton wouldn't have got away with what this guy gets away with.
Nothing, no, not at all. I mean, all he did was lie about a Hummer. That's it.
Yeah, and he got freaking censured for it.
Impeached.
But this guy, this guy comes out stoned out of his sneakers and no one even says anything. I'm telling you, Obama was stoned today.
He's always loaded,
This guy, he was loaded. He really
He's probably
was.
still high from the the stuff Prince brought over,
Yeah, he might have been up all night because he looked like 10 miles of bad road. His speech was halted. It was fake. It was like he was listening. You know how they do that mic check in those Occupy meetings?
Yeah.
You know how somebody will say something, they won't use a microphone. They make the whole crowd repeat it and pass it on. Well, that's what it was like. He said something, and then he'd wait, so someone's talking in his ear, and then he'd repeat what they just said, and he'd wait again. It was very difficult to listen to. I can't believe his handlers even let him go out there like that, because that was pathetic. It was bad. I don't even know what to say about that. I never would have let him go out there like that. He just looked like horrible.
Good.
Got anything more to say about this? Because I'm really mad at this. I'm mad that people are falling for it. I'm mad that they're coming after the guns. I'm mad they're coming after free speech. I'm mad they're playing a game with us.
I don't think anybody's
like
falling for it. That's an illusion too. Nobody's falling for it.
All over Twitter. Even the D-Rays and the Sean Kings are all over it.
Which is all liberals and fake people pretending like they're all behind it. You can't believe that. Why do you think I don't even get on there? It's not worth it.
There are people who are buying it. They really are. And they're screaming, for more gun control and more mental health control. Wasn't it the Democrats who closed all the nut houses? No treatment for you. They put them all back out on the street. You're on your own.
No, they're all
for their own good.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what letter they have in front of their name. Okay, that was the paradigm of the 90s when they, at least they pretended like they gave a crap about us, about the Constitution, about anything, and they don't anymore. They just passed this fast-track dictatorship, and Ted Cruz and Scott Walker and Rick Perry and everybody, except for maybe Rand Paul, and he's got his own problems, are behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said,
there's very few that are against it.
He wouldn't be able to play golf if these people weren't enabling him. So, this left-right thing doesn't work for me anymore. There's no difference between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. They're almost like Siamese twins.
Yeah. Another thing that this shooting helps was to cover up the fact that while everybody was freaking out about that, the politicians were having a vote. The House passed the Fast Track Authority. I don't know if anybody heard about it, because they're not even telling you that on the news yet.
Right.
But the bill cleared the House, 218 to 208. And now it goes back to the Senate. This is from the Wall Street Journal.
Never
The
any
House
doubt.
on Thursday, the House on Thursday passed legislation to restore presidential power to ease trade pacts through Congress, as Republican and pro-trade Democrats drove through a new fast-track bill a week after liberals brought down a similar measure in an uprising against their own president. The 218 to 208 vote was the House's second attempt to give Obama the power to submit trade deals to Congress for an up or down vote without amendment. The course, of course, is, uncertain, and the fate of the fast-track legislation is now intertwined with related measures to help workers hurt by international trade. So the union got what they wanted. They want taxpayers to get off money and support people who are laid off by this fast-track trade, by this Trans-Pacific Partnership. So obviously they know people are going to lose their jobs. We already have that. It's called unemployment insurance. We don't need another unemployment insurance. That's just another overlapping agency. But they got it in this. It's at the Senate now. I don't know how it's going to go. But this fast-track thing, this gives Obama authority. Yeah, well, this gives Obama authority to negotiate trade. And then any deal that he comes up with, he has to give it to Congress. And they have 60 days to look it over, and they can decide whether or not they want to vote yes or no. They can't change anything. Nothing can be amended. So it either is or it isn't. No bill that has ever been given fast-track authority has ever failed. So you know damn well, if they got 60 days to read it, they're not going to read it.
No,
they didn't read it before they passed the fast track. What makes you think they're going to read it afterwards?
They have one job to do, and they don't do it. Read bills. Yeah. One job to do, and they don't do it. But if you got a job at McDonald's and they gave you one job, like to, put the hamburger bun away, and you didn't do it, you get fired.
Right. Well, that's what's going on here. So they're not going to be able to give any input on any deals that he makes. They're just going to either say yes or no. Also, another thing that's going on is we have been running in the red since March 13th. March 13th, we hit the debt ceiling. So Jacob Lew comes out and says that he's doing extraordinary measures to keep the government running without raising the debt limit. And they're taking people's pensions, they're taking whatever money they can find, and they're putting it all together, and they're using that to run the government with. How come they're not closing down the memorials and putting up barriers and giving the veterans a hard time? Is it not time for that yet? Are they going to create a crisis at deadline? Now, they've already reached deadline and passed it March 13th. So where are they getting all this money? If they get this money to run the government since March, we're getting stiffed. You lose trillions in the State Department, billions in every agency. Start pulling that money back and you won't have to raise the debt limit for 6 years. Instead, though, they're going to put that off until they're just ready to go for vacation. And then they're going to tell us that it's a crisis and we're all going to die and the world's going to collapse and the soldiers aren't going to get paid and the little old ladies aren't going to get their Social Security checks and babies are going to starve or something. Just to get you to fall for this again. Well, you keep in mind this has been going on since March 13th. There is no crisis. There is no rush. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, and this fast-track dictatorship authority will give him all the. He'll be able to use that to pass any draconian law. Oh, guess what? I just made guns illegal today. Okay, it's a felony. Now, if you get caught with one that you bought completely legal, let's see, 20 years in prison. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And they'll do it.
Your gun's
won't
not
have to go
legal
through
with one of our.
Nothing.
Right, your gun is not legal with one of our trade partner countries. So it's not legal for you now because
and
this trade deal supersedes your Constitution.
Is going to get out of this, or any of these backstabbing jerks that backed him and sit there and Ted Cruz come out and said, "Oh, Jeff Sessions is wrong. This doesn't give him more power." I mean, why would you say that when you know it's a blatant
Why
lie?
would Obama fight for it if it wasn't giving him more power?
Right, exactly. And Sessions is the only one, lately that's telling the truth.
It's not only going to give him more power. What it's going to do is it's going to create our North American Union, and it's going to have a couple of other countries, too, out in the Southeast Pacific. 12 countries altogether. And it's going to form a union. And they can bring all the immigrants they want from all these countries into the United States. They don't need to go by our immigration policy. If they think that there's a company in the United States that's infringing on their business or profit, they can sue that company and they can sue the country. If they don't get, if these countries don't have gun laws, or if they do have gun laws that say that guns are illegal in their countries, they can impose that on us. Call it a hostile work environment, and then we got to get rid of our guns because of this trade deal. If we insult them and it causes them an effect on their business, say if you talk about Monsanto and it affects their business somehow, you could be sued.
No, they're changing their name.
So it violates your free speech. This is not good. This is another step towards world governance.
Why not?
Everybody knows.
Why not? You got the Pope. He's coming out. He's talking about, hey, let's just have a world government here, and so these climate deniers get in line. Maybe
now they don't even.
Maybe he'll.
Now they're not even calling
climate deniers are going to hell.
They're using the words extreme weather now. Not global warming, not climate change, not any of that. Extreme weather. Extreme weather happens all the time. It's not an unusual phenomenon. It's not something that you have any authority over, any more than you have authority over what race you are. You don't have any control over it. There's 9 active volcanoes spewing carbon into the planet, into the atmosphere as we speak. Well, how's Obama going to stop that?
Well,
it's all, like the Figueres said, it's a transformation of wealth. It's a transition of wealth. That's the biggest that the world has ever seen. So what they're doing is, of course, all these small countries want it because they're the ones that are going to benefit for it. Do you know we pay $3.5 billion already to the UN, and that's not for anything other than just our dues. That doesn't even include all the billions and trillions we give them for other specialty items. $3.5 billion a year. That's more than 185 countries combined donate to the UN. And then we're losing our voting rights because they don't like our attitude. I don't like their attitude. I don't like the idea we're giving them money. We're giving money to Honduras and to Guatemala and to El Salvador. A quarter of their citizens are here. Look at the money we give Mexico and the businesses we send down to Mexico. 25% of their citizens are here. So who are we supporting down there? So we're supporting the countries down there, and then we're going to support them when they get here too? If we're going to take all these immigrants in, why don't we cut back the amount that it costs to support them, individual, and then we just deduct that from whatever foreign aid we're giving them. And then if it's not enough money, they should stop paying us. How's that? Your citizens are here.
Those are all nice theories, but,
Yeah, well, I'm going to support you, and I'm going to support your citizen who's here.
They've been handing our rights and our sovereignty over to the UN at least since George H.W. Bush was in office. So that's a long time.
Right.
Nobody said
And another
anything.
thing about this, they tell us about this black unemployment. 50% of the young males are unemployed. Well, how are they living? Who's supporting them? So if
Government.
50% are unemployed, all right, just white people working? Is that what they're trying to tell us, that only white people have jobs? And if only white people have jobs, it sounds to me like they're busting their hump. supporting the people on welfare. So who's the slave? Get over yourselves. Time for a little reality here, folks. I don't want to hear that. If there's any slaves that are still alive, give them the reparations. Not their ancestors, not their descendants, rather. But, if somebody is alive who actually was a slave, fine, I'll go along with giving them reparations. Anybody else, sorry for your luck. Only about 2% of the black people in this country ever had a ancestor who was a slave, by the way. It wasn't like the whole country was slavery. It wasn't. Not too many people owned slaves, by the way. The ones who did, yeah, they were bad. But not everybody did, so you can't even take that guilt. My grandfather was a longshoreman with 10 kids. He didn't have any slaves. My other grandfather worked on the railroad because he was Italian. He couldn't get a job anywhere else. He didn't have any slaves either.
The truth doesn't matter, okay? I mean, the truth doesn't matter. They just use stuff to push their agenda, and facts don't matter.
Yeah, well, it's time that everybody get a little reality slap. Our military won't even stand up for us because they don't even know we're here. All they see is all this gross misrepresentation. You got Soros spending $33 million on protests against cops, against the military. Meanwhile, they're screaming for more government, more freebies, more handouts. Look around. See all those cops? Those are more government. You got what you wish for, and you can't even see it. We got, these people that just sit there and say, oh, well, we have to be tolerant, and we can't say this, and we can't say that. Let me tell you something. You have freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want. It might not be very nice speech. It might even be rude. But it's still speech. If all we talked about was lollipops and rainbows, you wouldn't need the First Amendment, would you? Now they're telling you can't even advertise your gun or the components. Well, isn't that free speech? What do you mean I can't tell you about my gun? I'm trying to sell my gun online, and I can't tell you the specs on the gun. That's crazy. That's a violation of free speech. But people look at it like, well, you don't want to put all that information out there. There's more information out there than you could actually imagine. And we're going to get to that. Matter of fact, why don't we get to that, Scott?
Yeah, can we?
There's a program.
Roll on, please?
I'm sorry, what?
I said yes. Let's roll on, please.
All right. A while ago, and when I first started being on the show, we had talked about a company called Iridium. Iridium is a technology company, satellite cable, telephone company. It started out as a company called Teledesic. Teledesic launched 288 satellites into space. It will tell you all over the web that Teledesic went out of business. No, Teledesic did not. Teledesic involved Google, Bill Gates, Motorola, AT&T, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, Falcon, and all the other little internet companies and stuff. All right, so it didn't go out of business. What it did was it changed its name to OCI. OCI launched even more satellites and built some on-ground network receptors. I don't know if you've seen those Google barges that people are, that they're being built, or that big NSA building that's being built. Well, OCI was in charge of that. Now the company was allegedly went out of business. It didn't. It went dark, and it changed its name, and now the company is called Iridium. Iridium, again, is the same company. It started with Motorola and all the other internet companies. Iridium also makes missiles. Well, when Bill Clinton was president, he decided to share missile technology with China. And part of doing business with China is they don't just buy the technology, they buy the blueprints and everything. You have to share the intellectual property with them. China just test-fired a missile in December. It was called a D4-41. And it was the third launch for that. This missile works on Teledesic Iridium OCI technology that was given to them by Bill Clinton. this missile can not only launch, but it can also simultaneously, on this missile itself, has the ability to launch 10 missiles from it. So what this is like a booster system. This missile will take those rockets halfway across the Pacific. And then more missiles will come out of it, 10 of them. And they'll continue the journey. So what they've done is find a way to piggyback missiles to get them to us. That was compliments of Bill Clinton and the company Iridium. Also with Iridium, and I brought China up to include it in this, because there is this massive, massive computer program going on. You think about the NSA, and you think about all that data storage and data collection, and then you think about the stupid thing they did last week when they said, okay, well, we got the USA Freedom Act now. It's not the Patriot Act anymore, and we can't collect all this data. We're going to turn it over to the utilities, to the Internet companies. Hello? These companies are working for the same government. And then, just to be slick about it, after this passed and all the big hoorah, and everybody was all excited, okay, they're not going to do the data collection, which was a BS lie, Obama sneaks off to the FISA court. That's that secret court where they did the blanket warrant to tap everybody. Well, they just went and re-upped it again anyhow. So it didn't matter what was voted in or voted out. Doesn't matter what was changed. They're still doing this data collection. Well, what they're building is this enormous Internet system and database. This database eventually is going to, it's called JADE, by the way. And
JADE 2.
They are already in the second phase of it. The second phase is JADE Next. JADE sound familiar to anybody? Okay, well, JADE, we've talked about it. We didn't know how close we were. We were talking about Jade Helm and how it was, they're trying to provoke us because they're building a database and they want us to react and they want to see how we react and they want to know how to counter our reaction. And they're using all the information that they gain from Jade Helm and they're feeding it into this database. This is just baby steps. Because what's actually going to happen with this database is eventually they're going to know where every one of us is. They're going to be able to control every one of us. I know it sounds way off, and I don't even know if you're going to understand what I'm telling you now. But this system, Jade, makes our Internet system look like a dinosaur. As a matter of fact, the FCC just voted to subsidize Internet for 4 people. They don't give a damn. They'll give you this Internet for free now. It's useless. Yeah. It's a dinosaur. What we're working on. The stuff they have that is so far beyond the capability that we have now, just the civilians have now, is something you can't even imagine. Every single person, every piece of information that's on our Internet that we have now is already downloaded in it. Yep. Everything they're learning from this point forward is being stored in this system. They have the whole planet mapped out with satellites and technology, and they're even trying to get this Internet into Cuba. They want everybody wired. Eventually, like GPS, you're going to end up with a chip. And the chip is going to have your identification, your medical records. It's going to have your debit card numbers, your banking numbers. You're not going to need money anymore. You're going to run your hand underneath a wand and pay for your products. You know what that's going to cause, though? That's going to cause murder. I was thinking about that. Say you get in trouble, and you know that they can track you with that chip, right? You're going to take that chip out. But what are you going to do? How are you going to go to a store? How are you going to, go into a movie theater and pay for a ticket? You're going to have to kill somebody and take this.
Well, they're going to find a way around the chip thing, too, by the way.
Oh, sure.
They can have it on anything. They can have it just to, they haven't been getting people used to credit cards for the last 50, 60 years for nothing.
But
when the only way you could buy food, if the only way you could buy food was to, take your hand calculator into a grocery store and hand it to them, you'd do that. You'll do anything to buy food. Using a credit
when
card
the credit
issued
card,
by the government is nothing.
Yeah, but how do those credit cards work? They have a metal strip on the back. Okay, they can put that in you. You won't even need to carry around a card. How many people lose their card or get them stolen or anything else?
Yeah, but too many people aren't going to go for that. Too many people are going to say no to that. So they have to find another way. And this Jade 2 thing explained that. I forget exactly what part that was in that video.
All right, well,
the
word jade is, it's a gem, but it's also the name of this huge program they're building, and Jade Next. And they've been at this now since 1995. The first launches were in 1997, and they've been launching. You see all these launches that they do out of Cape Canaveral, and they say it has a secret payload on it. About the launch, but they won't tell you about the payload on it. Well, that's what's going on here. This computer is now so advanced, it can build itself. You send a rocket up there, it can build itself. It will put things where it needs them. So they're working on artificial intelligence, and this thing is so intelligent that it now can teach itself things. I personally know somebody who worked on this program on those launches, and I didn't know that I knew. I really didn't. I didn't know that we had already had this information, and our long-time listeners know that we've talked about this a few times, but I didn't realize how immense it actually is. I saw a video that Scott had sent me, and it was difficult to listen to because I began to realize that I already knew all this information. I just didn't put it together because, I didn't think that anybody could see that big, and including myself. Guys, we got problems. And like I said, this internet we have now is just an old dinosaur. It's nothing.
Yeah, the new one is a mega supercomputer quantum. So it's like they have multiple different processors on one chip. So they can, it's got the computing power of like 1 to the 800th power of the computers now. Right? This has got everything. And the information actually exists in two places at once. So they say, so if you have encrypted software or something, they can immediately unlock that because they have every combination and every sequence of combinations in existence. They already know the combination to your encrypted software before they even check it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I got a comment in there, I wonder if they can find learners in Hillary's emails. Oh, please, they've already got those. They know every keystroke you make. Even if you never send the email, they know that you typed up something.
And that's what all this data collection is for. They have everything. They have every conversation you've ever made in the last 20, 30 years, everything you've ever typed, everything on Facebook, everything on any social media thing. It all goes into one big file with your name on it.
Absolutely. Every phone call you make, even your computer can see you now. Your TV can see you now.
And this Jade 2 is a command control center. It does what generals do, except it has no conscience, no empathy, no regrets.
Yeah. And that's why they're feeding it all this information. And that's what Jade Helm is all about. Jade Helm, it could be to ward off an attack. It could be an exercise. It's just way too big to not be something. So they are monitoring every single thing they're doing, every reaction we have to it. Every time we put out a story or even a comment, they are feeding that into the databases. Your license plates, your driver's license number, your tickets, everything. Every single thing about you. Your medical records. Look at this alleged hacking that happened by the Chinese. That's a bunch of baloney, too. The Chinese had the password. They had Chinese people working in the Department of Personnel Management, OPM. They had Chinese nationals working in there. So they didn't have to hack anything. They put in the password and got everything they needed. were being suckered. But every single federal employee was hacked? No, they weren't. They had some guy who come in, and he was putting some security stuff on the computer system, and he found that information had been bleeding out. So they just automatically said, oh, it's the Chinese. Every bit of information on that computer was bleeding out to the Chinese? No, it wasn't.
They
Matter of fact,
outsourced
every
all
bit of
that.
the Chinese... Yeah,
They
well, of course
outsourced
it was
that to a
bleeding
Chinese
out.
company. Do you know that? That has access to all the data. They didn't have to
Right.
hack anything. They were given it.
Right. Yeah, but they're feeding it into the computer, and they want the Chinese to have it. Because once the Chinese log into that computer, they got them. They got everything in their computer, too. That computer will decrypt. So if a Chinese national uses my computer, my computer will be able to find everything in their computer with it, with this system.
They also
So
have
they're
planes.
looking forward to these hacks. They want the hacks.
They also have planes and vehicles that drive through neighborhoods, and it downloads all the information on your cell phone, your computer, anything electronically that stores information. It's all downloaded.
As a matter of fact, that's true, too, because at one of these recent protests, there was a car that had two little cameras right down near its own license plate, and they were facing at, side angles. They were driving through the parking lot reading all the license plates. It was at a Walmart at some meeting. And this car, they ended up chasing the car off. But it had license plate readers, and it was just driving through the parking lot. It wasn't even erratic, just, lollygagging around and checking people's license plates, see who was there at any given time.
And that's why they want all the currency to go to an electronic system, because if you're not following their narrative and going along with their draconian laws, they can just cut your money source off, cut your food supply off, starve you to death. Remove you from the system, and you're just a node. Once they remove you from the system, you no longer belong to the universe.
Yeah, well, Astro's saying they must be quite concerned about the citizens as a whole if they go to that effort to learn about us. What they're learning about us is which ones of us are useless eaters and which ones of us are productive. Which ones of us have jobs, which ones of us have education, which of us have talents, any type of medical record that you have. They'll know if you're healthy or not. So, I don't know. You heard the Pope's guy say that there's 6 billion too many of us. Maybe they're going to start sorting us out. Who's needed, who isn't.
Well, of course they are.
What jobs they perform and what jobs they need done. And the rest of you, just useless eaters. Why bother keeping you around? They'll make medical decisions. The computer will make medical decisions, not the doctor. If you're too expensive to keep alive, well, put your head between your legs and kiss your rear end goodbye. You're all done.
Yeah, and this is the point of making protected classes and classes that they demonize all the time. If you're on the list of the class that they demonize all the time, you ain't going to get anything. You're not going to get health care. You're not going to get anything.
Mhm. Now, I know all of this is hard to believe, but think about it. Think about just OnStar in your car. Your car knows if you've been in an accident. It knows to call somebody.
Well, and where did you
what
get
happened with Hastings?
Where are the documents again that you were telling me about that you found from that show? Because this is all documented.
Yeah, it is all documented. I'll post the links. Lynn is at her mother-in-law's memorial, so she's not out there putting the links in, but somebody is. Whoever that is, thank you to our crew. It's probably Astro. Anyhow, yes, there's documents on all of this. As a matter of fact, they're launching a new teledesic system to meet up with the other teledesic satellite systems. And they all just...
Teledesic.
I'm sorry?
They call it Son of Teledesic.
Yeah, Son of Teledesic. So how many, 10 years ago you wouldn't have known anything about GPS and about how it's in every single automobile and it's in every single cell phone. And, now they're taking it to the stratosphere. It's going to be in your own personal body soon.
If it isn't already.
If it isn't already. I don't think it is yet. But everything that you're seeing going on around you now is feeding the belly of this computer.
Well, think about how easy they could do that. Chemtrails, and along with all the barium and everything else, they just have some nanotech in there. You're going to breathe it in. It'll go in there and rewrite your DNA.
Yeah. Well, they even have little pills you can swallow now that will go through your whole system. So, I know it sounds far-fetched. I know it sounds like total sci-fi I'm talking about here, but every bit of it's true. Every word of it's true. Now, just think about the advances just in the last 10 years. Think about the reporter whose car all of a sudden started going 100 miles an hour and slammed into a tree. Think about other events like the MH370. Think about the guy who was sitting there on his iPad and took control of a plane. But that's because all these components are in it. So if he can sit there on the plane that he's on and fly that plane, it can be done from an outside source too. Things are getting really weird. They're even putting, cars that drive themselves on the streets.
Uh-huh.
So if you think it's far-fetched, it's not.
No, it isn't. It's all happening. But, they'd rather talk about some white woman pretending to be black than anything that's real and important. Yeah,
we got to talk about some curly-haired white chick who wants to be black. I don't care what she wants to be. I don't care, please. I don't care what Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn wants to be. It does not affect our lives in any way. Whatever floats your boat, honey. In the meantime, there is some stuff that absolutely will affect you. And that's
this
because
is the only way
we have to learn.
This is the only way a few thousand people are going to be able to control 7 billion. And then once they get it in place, then comes the depopulation plan.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just going to say. I'm pretty sure that we're not, there's not going to be 6 billion of us anymore. Not for very long.
Oh, well, look at the Georgia Guidestone.
Yeah.
They want 500 million on the planet.
Mhm.
They got to have at least 500 million because they need people to wait on them.
Yeah. Well, somebody has to do the jobs and build the cars and keep the economies and everything going. So those people, those will be useful. So we don't have to worry about those ones getting killed. Do have to worry about the rest of them, though. And I'm sure that your families are not involved in the ones that are going to be left alive unless you have some very special training. But now you know, Jade is a computer system. Helm is the front of a ship. It's the steering. So this is steering the computer. That's what we're talking about here. That's what Jade Helm is. It's, you don't have to believe me, but I'm posting some stuff into the chat rooms that should give you a little indicator of what we're trying to say here. This computer system is so big, so immense, that it will control the world. It will control every aspect of what we do. It will control water facilities, pumping stations, electricity. It will control cars. It will control machinery, computers, and everything else. And it teaches itself, so the more it works, the smarter it gets. It's already a lot smarter than the people that built it. They don't even know the type of stuff that this computer is doing on its own now.
It's self-aware. It is self-aware. It is a virtual God is what it is. It knows more about you than your own mother. It knows all your friends, your habits, your travel preferences, the websites you visit, the books you read, what you say on your phone, in your living room, everything. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, this thing it's immense.
I also believe one of the first things it did was decide which generals and which officials in the military had to be purged, and that's why you've seen 800 plus pro-Constitution, patriotic soldiers and brass being fired over the last 7 years.
That's a good point too. It has all the records. It has everybody's records, the military, the generals. They know who's a patriot. They know who belongs to what groups, what clubs, things that have been said throughout the years, the way that they, lead the troops, things like that. So, Scott's right.
Yeah, and the one thing about the chipping now, I'll agree with you, is when you're in the military, you don't have a choice. You're government property. You're going to do what they say. And if you're special forces, something like that, you're going to have a chip. They've been chipping them people now for 10 years or more. And they're hooked right into that system. You know what's also hooked into that system right now?
What?
Down the road a little bit, it's going to be robot soldiers. But right now, all the drones are hooked into it.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's a good point, because of the robots, too. Jeez. Guys, I'm a little upset about this.
This is like, it's like the Terminator movie for real. This is Skynet, by the way. They predicted this in the 80s in the Terminator movie, the original one. This is Skynet, and it does everything that Skynet would do, and it's got the computing power to do it. These quantum computers are amazing, and they're even supernatural. You can actually buy one. The public can actually buy one. It's nothing compared to this mega supercomputer, but the public can buy one for about $200,000 and something. I mean, just Google it.
Anybody got a couple of
$100,000 and something, $200,000. Yeah. So if the one that's peddled to the public costs you $200,000 or $100,000 or whatever, and it does what it does, just imagine what DARPA and the government has that they've been used behind our backs now for 20 years.
Absolutely. These I posted a whole bunch of links while Scott was talking. Just click on them individually and look at the headlines, and you'll see that there is actually documentation of all of it. It sounds like something out of Twilight Zone, even some science fiction movie, but that isn't what it is. So, you want to take a break?
Yeah, good idea.
All right, guys, we're going to have to take a quick break, do some advertising here, pay for the bills. Anything you want to bring up?
Oh.
All right, well, I want to do just one more thing about this Internet. Today, the FCC voted to subsidize Internet. I kind of brushed over that. But, yeah, they'll give it to you for free. But right now, they're going to cost you more money. They said it's for poor people, and if you make below $50,000 a year, they're going to subsidize your Internet. So you're going to have Obama phones, Obama Internet, Obama housing, Obama food stamps, Obama Medicare. He's your daddy now, I guess. But, they tell us that they're running out of money, and it's to the point now where the government is paving the way for multiple employer pension plan cuts. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the government's preparing to cut benefits over the next few years, of course, for hundreds of thousands of retirees covered by the underfunded multi-employer private pension plans. They announced that yesterday, as a matter of fact. But Kenneth Feinberg, he was reviewing applications from pension plans, and they went into court and they decided, okay, well, seeing that they're public employees and we made the deal with them anyhow, we can give them what's called a haircut. that means that they're going to take some of the money, and you're not getting it. You're getting a haircut.
Yeah, that's a haircut. Because that sounds much better than we're going to lop off your head while we're ripping you off blind. Let's call it a haircut. That sounds nice. Sort of like the Freedom Act and stuff like that. Freedom! Oh, who could be against freedom?
Right, who could be against freedom?
It means the opposite of what they say. It's a haircut, they're going to cut your head off. That's what the haircut is.
Yeah, they're going to cut your pension is what they're going to cut. They're talking about like a 25 to 35% reduction in not only paying you, but also in their contributions, too. So say if they have a 50-50 contribution, you put in half, they put in half, they're taking 25% of their half out, too. So if you... Well, you can't because the Supreme Court just told them it was okay.
Yeah, well...
Same way the Supreme Court told people that the money that you put in the bank is no longer yours. It's now the bank's. You made a deal with them, but that's a civil case. That's not a criminal case. So if they don't give you your money back, you've got to sue them. And then they'll negotiate it down if you get a nickel at all. You saw what happened with Corzine and Jamie Dimon with the MF Global. They stole the pension fund for the farmers. Bernie Madoff, he was robbing rich people. That's why he went to jail. But Jamie Dimon and John Corzine, they're not in jail because they were robbing poor people, poor farmers. And then when they got taken to court, they never had to give those farmers back another nickel because if you hand your money over to somebody, it's no longer yours. It's now theirs. You're the idiot that handed it to them.
You know, you were run by a bunch of criminals. And this is what happens. They pass draconian laws, completely just stripping you of your money, your rights, your property, everything. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Mm-hmm. This is no different than North Korea or Venezuela or any other third world crap hole. Okay?
Yeah. That's, you know, I don't even know what to say about that. I told you that they're planning on a stock market crash in September. This is the 7th year of a 7-year cycle, and that 7 years is in September. You remember in 2001, we had that big crash right at 9/11, which was September. And then in 2008, during the elections, remember John McCain had to go and race back there to sign the TARP stimulus bill because we were all going to die. Remember, we were going to crash. It really was a crash.
Yeah.
Well, this is the 7 year. Also, you know, if you want to go all biblical, the 4 horsemen, the 4 blood moons. The last of those 4 blood moons is on September 13th. On September 25th, there's a big meeting at the UN.
Are you sure?
And
I thought it was like 18th something.
No, I think it's the 13th. But it's in that time frame anyhow, but I believe it's the 13th. It's also the Shemitah, which is Hebrew time period. And, you know, the way that this is going, you got that UN meeting September 25th, and the Pope, of course, is going to be at this UN meeting, and he's talking about climate change and all that, talking about the New World Government, talking about how there's 6 billion too many of us. We are moving to a global currency. That'll be done by the end of the year, but that will be finalized September 25th at this meeting. The global basket of currencies, the U.S. dollar is not going to be the top reserve currency, but the Chinese renminbi is. The U.S. dollar will be in the basket of currencies, but the main currency is now going to be Chinese money. You know, Russia and China are all buddied up. You know, the Middle East is in an uproar, and there is absolutely nothing Obama is going to do about it. As a matter of fact, the Middle East, the Kurds, I got a message from one of the Kurds yesterday, and it said how they're not getting any help and how they helped the United States in Iraq, and they were made all kinds of promises, and now they're being slaughtered and nobody's helping them. You know, blame Obama. He's the one that broke all the deals. You know, that's another thing. He's negotiating with Iran, and you see how terrible the negotiations are going. He's given away everything. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't left the office and given the Iranians the keys. But this is the guy we got negotiating trade. He couldn't negotiate a picnic. And for 7 years, the Republicans and some of the Democrats, but the Republicans mostly been fighting this guy as he's collecting more and more power as he goes around our Constitution. He goes around court orders. Even with his immigration, he got a court order, said he couldn't do it, putting all these immigrants on his plans. He's got Soros doing it. Soros is still taking all their applications and name and information and stuff. So then, like I said, the climate change stuff, and that's the biggest transformation of wealth. That's from developed countries to undeveloped countries. So, of course, the undeveloped countries are going to love this. But if you are a climate denier, you better expect a visit, because Gina McCarthy, the head of the EPA, said, you're not on board with new climate agenda? I'm going to come knocking on their doors to tell them they're mistaken. Check out this from Western Journalism. EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy sent a message to those Americans who do not want to get on board with the Obama administration's environmental agenda. Speaking at George Washington University's Green Gov Symposium on Wednesday, the federal government's top environmental enforcer said, if you're selling to somebody a product and you can assure them that this product was produced in the most environmentally responsible way, I will guarantee you that they will value that product more highly. She took it a step further, adding, I can guarantee you, because if they don't, I'm going to knock on their door and I'm going to tell them why they're mistaken. I got to see this chick come to my door.
Why is that?
She's not coming to my door. I'll treat her like a Jehovah's Witness.
Redheaded.
She don't want to talk to me. I got a lot of things I want to go over with her. And like I said about the Pope, they call him Red Francis, by the way. I'm a little concerned about this Pope. Usually you got to wait for a Pope to die before the next Pope comes. It sounds to me like they forced out Benedict and they put in this Francis. Well, Francis, he called for a new global authority to redistribute wealth in the name of global warming. He wants a whole new authority set up for that. Pope Francis will this week call for changes in lifestyles and energy consumption to avert the unprecedented destruction of the ecosystem before the end of this century, according to a leaked draft of papal encyclical. In a document released by an Italian magazine on Monday, the pontiff will warn that failure to act would have grave consequence for all of us. He also called for a new global political authority tasked with tackling the reduction of pollution and the development of poor countries and regions. See, there it is, right there. He doesn't give it. They really can't do much about pollution. There's stuff you can do about pollution, but not carbon. Sure, you can clean up junkyards and you can smelt back old, unused metal and stuff like that. You can clean your house. You can fix landfills and stuff. Those are things we should be doing anyhow. You don't want to live in a filthy planet. But those are things that people do every single day. You shut off a light when you leave the room. Even though it's environmentally friendly, it's also good for your pocketbook. You can't leave all the stuff burning unless you're a millionaire. But here they are. They all live on the ocean. They all have these big, huge mansions. There is so much money in the Vatican, it's never been counted. I didn't hear him say he was going to get off any of those Michelangelos or, sell some of the gold or some of the artifacts or any of that to use the money to support all these developed countries. What they're talking about is using your money. Hillary's not getting off a nickel. She doesn't. She found $26 million she didn't even report, and she got a do-over. You would have got a jail cell. George Soros owes $7 billion in taxes, and he says he's not giving it to you because he can use it better than the Treasury, so you're not getting it.
The Jesuits used to be just the police department for the Vatican, more or less, okay? Military faction of the Vatican. It was against the law, Catholic law, to have a Jesuit pope for that very reason.
Yeah.
This is the first time they've ever had a Jesuit pope. And this is just like our country. It's like saying, illegal aliens can't be president of the United States. Well, guess what? Everything's changed now. And that's why this guy's so radical. He's a Marxist with communist ties. He really don't care much about religion or Christians getting slaughtered worldwide. He'd rather push the global agenda.
Yeah, that's what you would think that the Pope would be interested in, would be all these Christians getting slaughtered all over the world. A lot of them are Catholics. I'm a recovering Catholic. I got out of there when that whole thing in Boston blew open. The kid that, was involved in it and who opened up the whole can of worms was my best friend's sister's kid. His name is Pat McSorley. He's dead, and so is Father Gagan. But when that happened, I had heard all the stories about, the priests and molesting children and stuff, but that hit home for me. There was really never any place in that religion for me anyhow, but when that happened, I had to walk away because there's absolutely no way I am going to be part of any organization that covers for pedophiles, enables pedophiles, and keeps them among their ranks. I don't want to be involved in a group like that. So, but the Christians, I still have my faith. I still believe in the Bible. I am a Christian.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't want people thinking I'm dogging their religion or anything any more than I want them thinking I'm dogging Islam or whatever. But there are things that we really need to talk about, and you can't just blanket say, oh, yeah, they're off limits and you can't talk about them, and you can't talk about Muhammad, and you can't talk about the Pope, because you know what? You're wrong. Yes, I can. I can
He's
talk
just
about
a guy.
those things.
And John Paul II would never have done any of this stuff. None of it.
And Benedict, what did they do? Put him in a jail cell or something? He hasn't been seen or heard from since. That's kind of fishy, too. When the Pope dies, they have the big ceremony, and then they parade him around for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the new Pope gets
they needed to put this guy in there to do exactly what he's doing, pushing a global agenda. And
so that tells you right there,
radical.
He's compromised. Got any closing comments for our guest today?
No, that's all she wrote.
All right, well, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
All right, thank you, Scott. All right, guys, it's all the time we have for today, and we thank you for tuning in. I hope I wasn't too all over the place for you and you really understood what was going on. We'll touch on that a little more as we go along. A lot of our time was used up, of course, by this South Carolina thing. I ain't buying that either. Anyhow, to all our listeners, our callers, and our colleagues, thank you so much. As always, a special thank you to Scott Ferrarello, my awesome co-host. And for everybody who's listening, thank you very much. Stay tuned to FreedomizerRadio.com all week to keep up with the latest news and information, and we'll see you here next week, same time. On that note, Zone 13 out. Good night, America. We love you.